entertainment, talent creation, and the challenges of nurturing and mentoring. It's a big topic. It's really the big topic in a changing environment because we're talking about talent. And as Benjamin Franklin said, hide not your talents, for uses they were made. What use is a sundial in the shade? And, we are entering the world of a multimedia environment. And the saying by George Eliot becomes all the more relevant in this, where he said, "It always seemed to be some kind of clever stupidity only to have one sort of talent, like a carrier pigeon." So in the age of multimedia, when media changes, content changes as well. We tend to look at changes through the rear-view mirror. So theatre existed, for instance, for centuries. And then when film came, people thought, oh, this is a great way of showing theatre. So then you started getting theatre in films until films realized their own potential by doing what films do best. For instance, as brilliantly exemplified most recently by The Life of Pi. I mean, that's something you cannot do in theatre. You can only do in film. In the same way, when television came, people said, oh, great, we're now going to put film on, take film and put it on television. Then you realize that television can do that, but what it really is best at is being there at things that are happening now. And that is what television's immediacy makes it so special in the field of news and sports and entertainment. While being there is not what television really is what the center of television is at in terms of its nature as a medium. Now, when we are moving into an internet-centric world, we have to examine what that does to projects. What are they going to change the very nature of projects that are made? And is the entertainment industry trying to understand the new generation that is emerging, the millennials of Generation Y and the digital natives of Generation Z? And conversely, are creative people finding a greater intimacy and greater creative freedom through the internet, through social media, through app development, through games, through being able to put their creative work on the net for all to see without the traditional gatekeepers? And above all, does the industry need a different set of talents for this new environment? And if so, what kind of training do we need to give that generation? And do we even know today what is going to be needed for these multimedia times that we live in? To discuss this, we have a very interesting panel with us. We have Anurag Batra, who's Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Exchange for Media. He's a very multimedia person himself. His companies include exchangeformedia.com, Pitch, Advertising, Marketing and Media Magazine, Impact, which is a marketing magazine, Franchise Plus, which is a business opportunity magazine, Realty Plus, which is a real estate magazine, and Samachar for Media, which is a Hindi media portal. He was also, most interestingly, appointed as chairman to form a vocational training framework for media communications and the entertainment industry in India. So please welcome Mr. Anurag Batra on stage. Our next panelist is Ashok Venkatramani. Ashok Venkatramani, who is CEO of MCCS India, which is an ABP, that is Anand Bazar Patrika company, which runs ABP News. He's the Vice President and Director on the board of the News Broadcasters Association. And in 2010, the World HRD Congress awarded Ashok the CEO with the best HR orientation. He's also been featured twice in the World CMO Council's list of India's 25 top marketers. So please welcome Ashok Venkatramani. Then, of course, we have uh, Vinod Nair, who is chairman and founder of Talent Tube Entertainment, and he's also the chairman and managing director of Clear Public Relations. He's one of the youngest CEOs of a PR agency, and his Clear group of companies is a 1 billion rupee entity. So if you haven't heard about the company, it's time you did. But I'm sure a lot of you already know. Recently, Vinod launched Talent Tube, which is a discovery, launch, and opportunity platform for the Indian entertainment industry, and we'll quiz him on that. And he's also promoted independent music artists like a band of boys. He's directed a TV film. He's opened a signature eatery, Nair's Kitchen, and he's even writing his maiden book. So he's a multimedia man. Please welcome Vinod Nair. And then, of course, we have another very multimedia person, Prahlad Kakkar, who is the film director of Genesis Film Productions, which he founded in 1977. And he's ruled the world with his irreverent humor, his brand-building campaigns, his award-winning ad commercials. He's known as an ad guru, not for nothing, because he's helped create many memorable campaigns like Pepsi's Ye Hai Right Choice Baby, Maggie's 2 Minutes, Limca's Zor Ka Jhatka, and many, many more. He's also a certified scuba diving instructor and successfully runs Laka Dives, I presume it's Laka Dives, not Laka Divs, Laka Dives, which is the first scuba diving school in Lakshadweep and the Andaman Islands. So you know where to go and refresh yourselves after a lot of hard work. So please welcome Prahlad Kakkar to our panel. Right, so we have with us a changing media landscape where you have forces like Google, YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, which are platform providers right now, transmitting a lot of the traditional media, but also creating media of their own. And let me start with Vinod Nair and ask him, how is this affecting traditional media, the growth and changing landscape of media in general, especially social media?
Thank you, Kabir. I think the impact is humongous, and actually it's far-reaching. Though in a country like India, it's yet to be really felt because the spread of broadband internet is yet to be really seen. We're still only talking about around 8 to 9% of penetration as opposed to 45 to 50, which is what you really need. But in terms of absolute numbers, because India is such a large country, you tend to find that the number of people that you're addressing, even with that 9%, is huge. So what it is actually requiring is for people to start looking at filmmaking or entertainment business or creation of any content in a very different manner. Because today, in the previous session which you were having, Kiran was mentioning the fact that my driver or my help is the one who's actually downloading the films, watching the films, and listening to every song, whether it's an item number or otherwise. So digitization as a means to go forward and create the content and make it easily accessible through to the public, I think that's becoming part and parcel of the new generation which we need to look at.
Right. Mr. Venkatramani, I wanted to get your perspective from the news organization's point of view, which is that the traditional method of delivering news, which was print, radio, television, etc., is now being extended into all kinds of other fields. How is this affecting the traditional attitude and functioning of media organizations?
You know, having worked in the corporate world for about 2 decades before coming into media, a lot of my views are going to be outside-in views. Unfortunately, my views are I'm a bit cynical about the way the ecosystem is existing currently as far as talent and talent nurturing and talent grooming is concerned in the media space, including news media. I think it all starts from the top. Everybody is, I find in the space, living, working for the today. So whether it is a content creation, whether it is news creation, whether it is, everybody is picking up talent for what the talent can deliver today. And nobody is either bothered or interested about developing talent for tomorrow. And therein lies the problem. So the moment attitudinally, that's what the ownership is driving, and behaviorally, that's how the management is behaving. People are not interested in picking up talent and trying to groom them. So,
why is that? I mean, isn't that something that is dangerous for traditional organizations if people start receiving their news on the mobile or start receiving it through social media and stop reading traditional papers and stop seeing the usual print media as their main source of thing? Isn't that a threat? Shouldn't that be something that you have to look for talent to extend that capability into other media?
I couldn't agree with you more. And if you really look at today, if you take broadcast media, for example, and look at the senior talent of broadcast media, a lot of them, most of them have actually come from print. They were all, people at one point in time doing print and groomed in print and come there. But you really look at in the last 10 years, which is really the time when broadcast media has really sort of flourished in India, and really look at talent which has actually been born, bred, and brought up in broadcast space, you can count names on your sort of fingers, and there is hardly any. And when we look at organizations and we look at the way we are, what organize, and I'm being quite self-critical, and I have no hesitation in saying that. Our entire endeavor is on the focus is on today. So, how many news organizations or how many content organizations, why just news, are actually picking up trainees, for example, the way corporates do, and invest in trainees, in training, exposure, opportunities, to just try and groom them and expect them to deliver after 5 years. Now, because they don't look at it that way, and there is, anyway, a lot of money chasing fewer talent, the mindset of the talent is also, sort of conditioned. So
right.
Nobody wants to stick into a job beyond the second year. They feel that, they've already learned what they could learn and they are very keen to move on. And
right.
that, I think, somewhere perpetrates a behavior that neither the organizations are interested in grooming because they fear that the individuals are going to run away. The individuals themselves see that, there is only that much you can learn in this job, and then they move on to something else. And hence, we have willy-nilly created an ecosystem where, it just becomes very difficult to groom talent
right,
for the future.
Right. Prahlad, I want to turn to you at this point, because you, apart from your ad-making skills and your sense of humor, you are known as a great mentor in this industry. I don't know how many people in the course of years that I've met have said, I began my career working with Prahlad, and you have mentored this talent to enter various streams, whether it's in advertising or films or other areas of social exposure. But firstly, do you think that the right kind of skills are being mentored today, given how enormous is the change in the media scene, especially the new media scene, and what kind of mentoring that would take? So what's your feeling on that? Are we prepared? Are we mentoring? Should we be mentoring in different ways?
Mentoring, I think, is the single most important factor of staying ahead of the pack, which is that what does a teacher learn from a student? Does a student learn more from a teacher? Because the teacher only teaches them a craft. What does the student teach the teacher? Which is invaluable, which is El Dorado.
Especially in this day and age.
No. Every age, throughout the world and its history of mentoring, the student has taught the teacher how to stay young. Where can you buy that? Where can you actually buy off a shelf how to remain young forever? Okay?
Right.
Which is invaluable. Now, as a mentor, if you're going to be relevant, you have to be younger than the people you teach. And how are you going to remain young if you can't get it up anymore?
You could be mentally alive.
You see? So No. So the fact is that if you surround yourself with a whole lot of young, very hungry people who are willing to pick up anything that you say, especially in terms of detail, then you suddenly see them growing into professionals. And when you see them growing into professionals, a lot of times people ask me, how come Indian advertising has raised the bar to such an extent in the last 15 years? I mean, they're going places.
They're winning all these awards at Cannes.
No, forget the awards. The awards are irrelevant.
No, but it's international recognition.
No, but they don't understand our advertising. Because our advertising today finally is aimed at Indians, not at the world.
Yeah.
You see, and Indians are very special. We dream of dal chawal. They dream of steaks. There's a huge difference.
Right.
So when you dream of dal chawal, what is your idiom? Your idiom is folk theatre, culture, classical music, dance, and movies. So that is where your idiom comes out of. We are larger than life. We are hugely sentimental. Either our cricket team is gods or they're shit.
Yeah, but
there's no in between.
Quite right. Quite right.
The Westerners have no idea of a shade of grey. We have no shades of grey. We are black and white. Okay, and we are extreme. So when also we have a cultural problem, which is when we deal with whites, the problem is that when they ask us to do something which is not possible, we find it bad form to say no.
Right.
Okay, so what do we say? We say we'll try.
Or we shake our head in
No,
that very
or we say we'll try.
way.
Now, what does we'll try mean in Indian parlance? When an Indian asks an Indian, karega? He says, "Wo koshish karunga." Mean no.
Right.
There is no way that is a yes or a maybe. It means no. It's just too polite to turn around and say to your face, no. Because it's supposed to be bad form.
Very true, very true.
They call us untrustworthy because we are not straight with them. They don't realize that it's a cultural thing. It's not somebody wants to lie to you. It's
No,
just
it's
that,
true. It's true.
when you look at a client, you think he's God. When he's God, you never say no to God.
Yeah. But beyond the skills of saying no, which is a very important skill to learn.
It's a very important skill, especially today.
Especially today.
As we're getting, internationalized more and more,
Right.
It is a huge impediment for us when we go to somebody who's senior to us and we turn around and say, no or FO.
Right.
Which is exactly
Right.
the same thing.
Right. But my larger question was...
No, but mentoring, again, coming back to mentoring, is that, when you create a generation of competition for yourself, okay, the first thing that most mentors are told is that, why are you creating competition for yourself? You're ruling the roost. Why don't you rule it as long as you can? You're creating a whole generation of people who are going to eventually compete with you. Now, the point is that you look at it this way. If they raise the bar, because they have to, if my student is not better than me, he's not worth it. He'll always get half price. They say if he's not as good as his mentor, we may as well go to his mentor. So to survive, he has to be better than his mentor. If he has to be better than his mentor, he raises the bar for the industry.
Right.
When he raises the bar for the industry, for you to survive as a mentor, you have to compete with him. So
Right.
you raise the bar even further. So
Right.
every year, with every batch of youngsters that you put out there into the world, you are raising the bar. They're raising the bar, you're raising the bar. So at the end of it, either you're competitive or you're dead.
Quite right. And what you're saying here is that mentoring itself is a self-renewing process for the mentor himself.
And it keeps you completely on the ball.
And especially in this age of social media, which is adopted by the younger generation so quickly and so instantaneously, learning from them what these media can mean in terms of content creation as well would be a learning for the mentor as well.
It's a much bigger learning for the mentor than it is for the student.
In a sense, absolutely. In a sense, absolutely. With that, I really want to turn to Anurag Batra because I was very interested in the last part of my introduction to you where you talked about setting up a framework for vocational training in media, entertainment and communications industries. And I wondered how you saw that in relation to the changing media environment that we now see.
Thank you, Kabir. I must compliment you. I go to many panel discussions. We organize conferences, but like last year, you're very well prepared. I think
Always.
That's the kind of talent that should be moderating panels. I mean, it's beyond your presence and your personality. You're very well prepared, and
Thank you so much.
And I must compliment on you. on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I mean it. I've done this across the world. Not many moderators are prepared. I see his notes. I can see what he's written down. Now, I want to make two comments and then I'll come. One is, it was a committee formed by the Ministry of HRD and the AICTE, which is the All India Council of Technical Education. And really, the rationale was that while the industry looks at talent, it looks at talent really in the upper echelons. It looks at directors, producers, advertising executives. It looks at the top management, top layers. Nobody is talking about what will be the talent at the lower end. What will happen to technicians? What will happen to, this ecosystem that supports the senior people and builds the organization. And vocational training in India is seen as a stepchild. It's seen as, inferior. So how do you make sure that it becomes more respectable and it is employable? So the whole idea was employability in the media and entertainment sector and creating employable talent for the next 30, 40 years. So we did that. But it was a committee. I was the chairman of the committee. But as you know, the old saying, a camel is a horse created by a committee, right? Committees work in a certain manner. I did make my recommendations to the Ministry of HRD and AICT, and maybe over the next few years, you will see a framework that will be actually implemented. Coming to the topic in terms of talent, I agree with Ashok. Really, war for talent for the term coined by McKinsey and Company in 1997, referring to how talent will really be the competitive advantage over the next 20 years. And in India, what is missing is a mindset of talent. It's not about talent. I mean, there's enough talent. And I want to quote here Michael Jordan. I'm sure you know Michael Jordan. He's a famous basketballer. He said, let me quote him, talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championship. The point I'm trying to make here is that while we have talent, we do not have a framework, we do not have an environment that can nurture the talent. And I want to give you two quick examples. In India, in most media companies, there is no wealth sharing. So, people go out and create, products, services, and create wealth for themselves. Second is, we are very insular as an industry. We do not welcome talent from outside. One of the reasons Ashok has been able to turn around his company very well and make the transition from Star News to ABP News is he came from outside the industry. He came from levers. And, he brought best practices from outside the industry. We are a very insular industry. We do not. And last, I'd like to propose at this forum, like you have a mark for sports in schools. If you really want to develop the talent for the next industrial age or the information age or the entertainment age, whatever you want, you must do a marks for liberal arts, marks for entertainment. That's when you will develop the talent for future.
Right. I think that's a very important point you've raised, because the traditional patterns have been that, actors go to, say, the National School of Drama, filmmakers and potential film actors and editors and directors go to a film school, others go to graphic arts schools with a view to entering advertising or take literature courses. But really, when we're talking about not just making films for films and television and print creations, we are talking about extending them into this new media. And believe me, the size of the new media is truly enormous. If Facebook was a country, it would be the third most populous country on the planet, and it's not even 7 years old. If you look at YouTube, something like 72 hours of video is being uploaded to YouTube every minute. If you look at the social interactions that are taking place in the world of Twitter, there's about 300 million people right there. You see what's happening in the video fields, in Vimeo and places like that. So a huge change is taking place, which is affecting the kind of talent we need, which needs to be a more multidisciplinary thing. So if we have, for instance, these traditional schools, what kind of schools and institutes do we need for the future of media, for the future of technology? What kind of talents and institutes need to be created? That's the big question. Any thoughts on that?
Sure. In fact, one of the key reasons why I suppose I'm over here is because I sort of started something on this line which is called talenttube.com. It's related to the entertainment industry fundamentally, where it looks at giving anybody in the world who wants to get into showbiz, whether you want to be an actor, a singer, a dancer, a lyricist, a musician, composer, whatever you want to be, you can actually audition online. You can become a member of the community, and then you audition online for opportunities that are offered on talenttube.com. But the interesting thing is that this is what Ashok was also talking about. He's cynical. I think I am experientially cynical about the entire thing. Because once we started this entire thing and we got this large bunch of talent which has become part of we got around 40,000 people who are members of our community right now. So we take this talent pool and we went to the producers. So they said, star kaun hai? So said, sir, fresh talent hai. Star kaun hai? Sir, fresh talent hai. Acha, bye bye. They go to a financier and you say, I want to make a movie. Will you please help me make this movie with freshers? Star kaun hai? Sir, freshers hai. Star kaun hai? Freshers. Of course, something like a student of the year, SOTI, gets made because somebody played with somebody's goatee. That's the truth. That's the only reason why that gets made. It's a nepotic world. Bollywood is a nepotic world where people give opportunities to people from within their families. But you try, and there are a few people who have succeeded, and these are exceptions. And these exceptions do not make the rule today. And what we find in our experience is that we may be willing to groom them, train them, give them opportunities, discover the talent. But the business side of Bollywood or entertainment, I went to channels. I said, I want to make a television serial. I've got this fantastic subject, beautifully written, but it'll be newcomers. नहीं यार, स्टार नहीं है तो नहीं ले सकते, टीआरपी नहीं मिलेगी. तो कभी ना कभी उसको स्टार बनने के लिए या कोई ब्रेक मिलने के लिए मौका तो दिया जाना चाहिए. But the openness of the industry to give genuine maukas to people whom they don't know is very, very rare. And that's what
who are not related. Mostly who are not related, because their attitude is that हमारा नालायक लौंडा पड़ा हुआ है तो किसी और के नालायक लौंडे हुए पे क्यों.
Absolutely. This is exactly what is happening. And we are facing this uphill task of trying to get anybody, whether it's and the minute you talk Bollywood or entertainment business, none of the investing community wants to get in. They run away like scaredy cats because they say, boss, ये धंधा समझ में नहीं आता है. यहाँ पे ना कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन होता है, ना कुछ किसी को बोला जाता है, लेकिन एक जुबान पे पिक्चर खड़ी हो जाती है. एक एक्टर के नाम पर 100 करोड़ खड़े हो जाते हैं, लेकिन 10 एक्टरों के नाम पर 5 पैसा नहीं मिलता है. So,
and yet it is the largest film industry in the world. So we must doing something right.
No. It's a mom and pop show. It's not an industry, Kabir. I've always maintained that the industry misnomer has been given to the industry by its own insiders. Nobody from outside would ever throw even a ball at them because they're not an industry. They work like a halwai ki dukan.
It is, it is an industry that produces a lot of films by sheer dint of the number of
9 out of which flop. 9 out of 10 flop. Now that's not a good habit.
Those statistics are probably true abroad as well, because that is the nature of the business. And while there might be some risk reduction there, I don't think the figures are quite as bad as you make.
No, but I must give you an
argument. They're worse than what I'm making them out to be.
Prahlad,
you have no idea, because there's no transparency. There is completely no transparency.
No, Prahlad, I don't agree with you. I think the industry has certainly changed over the last 80s and 90s. I remember a time when it was an industry
from then, yes,
run over with black money, all kinds of transactions were done under the table, etc. Today, that has changed largely. I find it...
No, but
just because you pay them a check.
It's very much the exception rather than the rule.
No, Kabir, I must also say one thing. Exactly what most of the people whom I've interacted with give me the same dialogue. That it's not an industry because 9 out of 10 films flop. And let me tell you, because I've done my studies and research on this, 9 out of 10 films in the Indian industry, film industry flop, but 9 out of 10 of them are business successes. They all make money. Just because you flop at the box office does not mean that as a business you're a flop. They all recover their money in some form or the other, and the losses which a financier or somebody gets is only restricted to 1 or 2 films. So as an industry, it succeeds. If you were to call it industry,
no, it has to be called an industry, whether you call it a cottage industry or whether you call it a mechanized industry. It's an industry in the same way that a restaurant, in the same way that the restaurant industry in America has a 90% failure rate. It is still called an industry. And therefore, just based on the fact that we make the largest number of films in the world, I think we're entitled to the title of industry, even though it might be a lot of mom-and-pop operations, despite the entry of
I guess the reason why one is questioning it being an industry is that the commonality of purpose and goal. For example, if you take talent grooming, identification, setting yourself, readying yourself for the future, etc. That as a common goal, is it being seen by the larger players and by the players in the industry, and they're coming together to do that? That's missing. So from the perspective of what we are talking about today,